Welcome into the Barbecue Life. I'm your host, Kurt Mueller, and we're powered by, as always, Hound Hogs BBQ Supply. Check them out at Hound Hogs BBQ Supply on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, so super excited today to welcome the Chief Impact Officer, which I think is a really cool title. She's the Chief Impact Officer for The Good Charcoal. Her name's Janet Silverman. Janet, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I do have to give a quick shout out to my good friend Matt Osmond over at Blinky's Offset Barbecue for connecting us. Matt is a big Good Charcoal fanatic, if you will, and so thank you, Matt, for connecting us. Also, it's interesting because the Good Charcoal is very abundant in the Augusta, Georgia area, and I use it quite often, so it's kind of cool that make that connection there. So. Well, talk to us about your barbecue journey here just a bit, Janet. How long have you been with the Good Charcoal? And we'll start there.
So I've been with them right from the start. It was in the end of 2020 when Ben and Rob, who are the co-founders of the company, came up with, they had this opportunity of starting the Good Charcoal Company, and they did their due diligence, went to Namibia, where the charcoal is from. And, it's a great product, like, as you know, and I can talk about, the charcoal in a minute, but, part of what they wanted to do in bringing the Good Charcoal here to the US was have a give back program. It was really important to them. And, we were in the middle of COVID where there was just a huge, there's so much food insecurity. It was awful. And I live in New York City. I mean, I walk around, I would see the lines at the food pantries and the shelters, and it was horrible. And we just thought, like, what could we do to, make a difference, right? And help out and give back. And so, they gave me that responsibility and that project, which, I had taken off some years to raise my kids and, I was just getting back into the workforce. And this was just like, this spoke to me. For a number of reasons of, being able to give back and doing good in communities. So
That's what I love. I definitely want to, that's a great segue because I want to find out more, and I want you to help our listeners better understand, this give back program, which I think is really cool, right? Because you talked about the food insecurities, which unfortunately I don't think I think we're always going to have that issue, unfortunately, but how is the Good Charcoal involved in that? What are they doing? Tell us about this program.
So, we started, I was like calling out to like different food banks, and, it's very bureaucratic. It's, some of them are government run, and I was getting nowhere. And so I just had this idea. I was like, what about if I call local pantries and see if they're interested? And I will confess right up front, I am not a cook. So you would not want me to prepare meals for anybody. So I was like, how can I do this? And I was like, let me see about food trucks. Right. And so I'm like, it was like, sort of just like it worked. And I did our first event in Bentonville, Arkansas with the Piggy Shack. And the Second Street Food Pantry. And I brought them together, and, it was about 1.5 miles down the road, the food truck from the food pantry. So when the guests were driving up in their cars, like, we're in the middle of COVID, nobody's getting out of cars, everyone's masked up. We would put the groceries in the car, and I would hand them these coupons tickets that I would print up, and they would take that to the food truck about 1.5 miles down the road, and they can get themselves hot barbecue sandwiches and, a side. And people were so happy, not only am I just handing out food, but sometimes I'm just an ear for people to talk to. I'm a good listener, happy to talk to people and, hear their stories or whatever they want to talk about. People are just happy to have, conversation. And so we were just feeding people. They would go get their meals. They could bring it home to their families. It was nice for them to not have to think about making dinner that night. They could bring home, it was a side in there and a hot, whether they chose barbecue pork or pulled chicken sandwich, whatever their choice was, they had. So that's sort of how our food, give back program started. And then I just started traveling around the country, finding different food pantries that don't serve hot meals to their guests, and coming in and then bringing in different, food trucks from all over. the country in different neighborhoods. So it's been great. I've been everywhere and I continue to book out different events. And, while it's small, like we're making a difference and we're making people's lives easier that day and bringing joy to people. And who doesn't like barbecue?
Absolutely. Amen to that. Amen
Yeah.
to that. So that's super cool. It started as an idea and you executed and made it happen on a small scale. And then it's just branched out and kind of become its own, not monster, but its own entity, right? It's just kind of taken on a life of its own here,
Yeah.
which I think is really, really neat and you're right. I mean, people do appreciate a smile. They appreciate, someone being, willing to lend an ear, that kind of a thing. And again, like you said, who doesn't like barbecue? So let's talk about the charcoal though, because I think this is really interesting too. There's a story behind that, right? Whereas it's not just charcoal, right?
Not just
Exactly. So let's talk about the charcoal. You mentioned the type of wood, and it is a unique type of wood. It's not your typical what you would classify as like a typical American barbecue type of wood. So educate us. What's going on with this wood?
So it's pretty cool. It's acacia wood. And this tree is like an invasive species in Africa, Namibia, South Africa. It's a very like dense, hard wood. It's sort of like pokey, sharp bush. So it's not like trees, it's bush. And it's just overgrown everywhere. And it just, keeps growing. It comes back. It's sort of like, like what we have here when we want to get rid of weeds. It's just always growing back. So they're clearing out this acacia bush. It is FSC certified. So we're the only charcoal that has this like environmental blessing of being FSC certified. We are not, in clearing out this bush, we make room for the animals and like the cheetahs to roam free, for farmers to use the land, for just clearing out and making villages. So it's also solving an environmental problem. We take this acacia wood, it's made into lump charcoal, and we also now have briquettes that are coming in for the fall of 2023. So that's exciting. And so, this bush overgrown, we clear it out and, we have it as briquettes, like I said, or the lump charcoal. There was a huge problem with cheetahs, like they're running and through these areas and they would scratch their eyes. And so, we always say we're saving the cheetahs and just, helping out in that and, providing jobs for people in this country, in those countries, in Namibia. We bring the charcoal here. It is sustainable. It is environmentally friendly. The charcoal itself, because it's such a dense wood, it burns hotter and lasts longer, as you know, in using it. So, and it's clean, it's made chemical free. So you're not cooking, it's good for you, and we also, so the good charcoal has this, we sort of say there's a tripod of good, right? We're good for you, good for the community, and good for the environment. So.
I love that. The tripod, the triangle.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're impacting the community with these various events. You're feeding folks. People love barbecue, as we've already, said. And at the same time, you're helping the environment, providing jobs. I mean, it's a really cool story. And I can attest to the quality of the charcoal itself. Again, I'm lucky that in my area, it's readily available. Maybe some of the remote areas it's not. But I started using it really. I got to tip my cap to Matt here again. I mean, I never really heard of it until I met Matt, and I said, I'll give it a shot, and saw it at Sam's, and here we are. So
Yeah.
that's really, really cool. So as you kind of look out, so obviously this is a younger business. You guys have been around 3.5 years, and as you kind of look at the landscape, so you've come a long way in 3.5 short years, right? So as you look out at the landscape over the next couple of years, the barbecue industry, the charcoal industry, what do you see? What do you see any changes coming, right? Not just competitions, could be just, commercial barbecue operations as well. I'm curious just from your side, what you're seeing in terms of an industry standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's still growing. I sort of feel like COVID, right, sort of like helped pick up I wouldn't say help picked up, but it brought up more people barbecuing, right? Like everybody was outside, outdoors. Remember, we couldn't be inside and all those social gatherings. And I think it really stuck, and people like barbecuing's like more popular now. I do. I think it's like more people enjoy the barbecue, being outside, family get-togethers, friends, like it's fun. It's fun cooking. There's, let's not forget, you could have the s'mores after kids enjoy a barbecue, right? And I just think there's so much more product coming out as well, like, from grills. And now we have, for us, for charcoal, we have briquettes, which is new. And that's, coming out, like I said, in 2023. We're changing our bag. It's going to be more sustainable. We're adding a handle to the bag. That would be in 2024. So like, I just think there's momentum, right, of coming out with new products and what people want. And honestly, like, I think now people are careful with what they cook with. Like if you have a choice, right, to cook with something that's healthy and good for you versus a product that's not, like, we're not made with chemicals. Our, briquettes are going to be made with it's wood, it's cornstarch and water put together. Like we're not adding anything else in there. So I just think people are like more aware of cooking healthier and conscious. And so if you could buy the good charcoal and start off as when you cook, did you notice that there's less smoke when you cooked with our, charcoal?
I did. I noticed there's less smoke. I also noticed that on the gravity feed, which is where I normally use it, gravity fed smoker, as well as just a standard, Weber kettle. I noticed, to your point about it being hotter from, that was most definitely noticeable. And less ash. I mean, I think that's also a indication that there's not a lot of, to your point, a lot of fillers, a lot of unnatural things in there. So I think it's, again, it's just so interesting to me because we're so used to the hickories and the mesquite and the pecan and the apple and those are great woods. Those are great, great smoking woods. But it is interesting just to hear that story and where all this came from. So, if we look at national scale, where are some of the national places, national retailers that our listeners can purchase this? Because we've got folks across the country.
Yeah, sure. So we're in Sam's nationwide, Target. We are homedepot.com. We're in ShopRite, which is like probably like the Northeast where I am. There's United Supermarkets. We have some small local distributors like in Detroit area. We are going to be in Lowe's in the fall for 2023, which is super
awesome.
Yep. And so, we're talking to other partners and, it's exciting. We're growing. So, and just getting the word out there. I've also had the opportunity to go to like a Memphis in May event, and I'm looking forward to like the Jack, and like that just has been like a whole new world for me. So like we're growing in that area and putting together pro teams to go out there, use our charcoal and compete. So it's, growing in lots of different directions.
I love it. So, you bring up a subject that I wanted to expand upon, and that is, competition barbecue teams. I hear, we started in this crazy world of barbecue competing. It has since morphed into catering and, vending at various events. So it's been a fun journey, but I do hear a lot of teams ask the question, well, what are potential sponsors looking for? How do we make this a mutually beneficial arrangement where there's value provided on both sides, right? Because I think sometimes, in the quest for sponsors, folks tend to forget that, hey, it's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. So, from your perspective, right? From a potential sponsor perspective, what are some of the things that you're looking for with those pro and backyard teams when you're considering them as a potential partner?
Right. So, I don't really handle that myself. We have Emily Kramer, she deals with all the ambassadors and the pro team. So her job is like, she has been amazing. I work with the best people. We're like a family, but she goes out and finds all these ambassadors and speaks to them and pro teams. And so she's been communicating with them. She has found us. I think we have about 25 people on our pro team. And I think, she looks for, obviously, it's personality too, right? And like, I got to meet some fantastic people at that Memphis in May event. Like, it's a different world. And I had no idea how fun, how nice everyone is, and just what a fun event. So she goes out and she finds these people. We've also, like, other pro teams recommend everyone. I think, like the pro team out there, they all know each other, like,
Correct.
even though they're competing. But I think there's also a lot of camaraderie, and they're willing to help each other. And it's like pretty unique. I live in New York City. People don't willing to help each other. It's pretty competitive and cutthroat.
It is fair. That is a fair point. And it sounds like that we need to have Emily's her name, correct? Emily?
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like we need to have her on the show to chat about, just dive into a little bit more about what you guys are looking for, because I do think it's a subject that, a lot of teams just don't quite understand. And I think if they did, then they would look at it just a little bit differently, right? Being able to provide the value from both sides. So we talked about the lump charcoal. We talked about where it comes from, what you guys are doing nationally and internationally, right? We talked about the briquettes, which are going to launch in the fall, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So outside of that, and I don't know if this is something you can chat about, but is there anything else from a product standpoint that's coming down the pipe that you've got, your eyes on?
Well, we've got quite a few different bag sizes coming through. So right now we have a 15.4, we have an 8-pound. We're coming out with the briquettes, different size bags, like I said, with a handle that's coming out. We're also going to be launching in the UK in the fall. So that's pretty exciting to be there, across the pond.
Yes. Across the pond. Our neighbors across the pond love barbecue, and so do our neighbors down under.
Yeah.
Down in Australia. Interestingly enough, I think we've got a good chunk of our awesome listeners that are in Australia. So I find that interesting. I've just learned or recently learned that Australians love the low and slow method of cooking. So kind of interesting, right?
Well, one of the co-founders, Ben Jablonski, is from Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, how about that?
He's a big barbecue guy. And
how about that?
We need to get it down there too.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's only a matter of time before it's down under. So that is too cool. So as we kind of wind down, we've talked about the story. We've talked about, the amount of impact that you guys are doing for the community. How can our listeners engage with the Good Charcoal Company? How can they find out about these events? Where can they follow you, et cetera?
Yeah. So, we're on Instagram and Facebook. And we're gonna put up a calendar of like different give back events. Like, I'm currently working on an event for August to be in the Dallas area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Once a month, typically I'm in the Atlanta area. Twice a month, we're in Arkansas. Like, for these events, like the give back events, I am scheduling them, and we could put them up on our social media if people want to come out, help out. Usually I get to these pantries early and I help like load the groceries, bring them to the car if they're shuttling it. So I'm always like an extra pair of hands at these pantries. So we're always looking for other people to help out at these food pantries. So if people want to come and help Good Charcoal in these food pantries, they could always use help.
Awesome. I was going to ask about volunteer opportunities, because I think majority of our listeners do have they're kind-hearted and they want to try to give back, and they love barbecue, right? And that's if you got a passion for something, why not be around other people that have that same passion for it, serving others, et cetera. So I love that. And for our listeners too, check out thegoodcharcoal.com, which is where you can find out all that information, as well as Instagram. I know you guys are on Facebook, of course, TikTok, Twitter.
Yeah.
We'll have all those links in our show notes, so you can quickly go to their pages and see what they're doing. So as we wind things down, we talked about the what you see coming down the pipe over the next couple of years, but I guess the final question would be, in terms of the longevity, right? So really more so, maybe not legacy. I think legacy is the wrong word. But, I guess, when we look back 20 years, let's say, 20 years, 25 years, what do you want to be able to look back and say that you were a part of?
I was part of an amazing company with, honestly, the people I work with are, they're as good as the charcoal. They're better. They're
Right. There you go. There you
like,
go.
I just work with such wonderful people. Like, we do these Wednesday meetings on Zoom because everyone, like, we have Angela who's in Tuscaloosa and Emily lives in London. And so, you know, we have our social media guy, Sam, who's in Colorado. We're all over. We've done an onsite to be together, which was amazing. But these meetings, like, everyone is cheering for everyone. We work together as a team. I've watched this company grow and like pick up people, like someone to do logistics. Like in the beginning, that was my thing. I was dealing with like trucking and shipping, and now we have fabulous Angela, who's a nightmare, Angela and Stephanie doing this. And it's just, I work with great people. I'm going to look back and say like, wow, I worked with amazing people. And I got to make a difference in my job. Like I always tell them, I'm like, I have the best job in the company. Like I get to make a difference, and I enjoy what I do. I really do. And I just think like we have a great product out there. We need to spread the word how good it is. Because I think when people try our product, they'll see what we're talking about. And it's really just a matter of getting people to try it. So
I love that. And if you couldn't feel the energy and the passion coming through your speaker, listening to this, I mean, I do, right? During this interview, I can feel the passion, energy, which is really, really cool. Because it is more than just barbecue. It's more than just charcoal. It's about serving others. It's about, working with great people and making a difference. So, Janet, we are so appreciative you joined us today. Thank you so much, and we look forward to meeting you in person at some point.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Kurt.